Well, hello, everyone. So glad to have you with us today on our Wellness First Wednesday for today, the 12th of May. We're so excited to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and advance that slide if you would, please, because I can't wait to introduce you to our guests. Today, our topic is Ask the Experts Questions About Your Pets, and we are being joined by two of our friends from the Maryland SPCA. And thank you so much for joining us today. Can't wait to introduce you. So let's go ahead and meet them. Next slide. Great. So this is Katie Flory. Katie, I want to thank you for joining us today. Katie is our Community Relations Director. She chairs the Baltimore City Mayor's Anti-Animal Abuse Commission. Katie has worked for the Maryland SPCA for 15 years, training thousands of volunteers and members of the community in animal handling, safety, and several other animal welfare issues. Katie analyzes and advocates for animal welfare legislation. She provides educational presentations to local schools, universities, and community groups on animal safety and welfare, and has 3 dogs, Tugboat, Bowie, where's that boy? I'm sure you're going to tell me. Bowie, and Hank Williams Jr. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Joan. I know Marie and I are super excited to be here. Since I sent you my information, I've actually now been with the shelter for 16 years, which is super, super exciting to be able to say. I've had a long and wonderful career in animal welfare, and I'm really excited to be here today to answer any questions that people may have on any range of topics. Animals are absolutely my passion, but people are as well. And the mission of the Maryland SPCA is to improve the lives of pets and people. So I'm hoping that Maria and I can accomplish that today.
I have no doubts that you will, Katie. Thank you so much and welcome. So I also want to talk and welcome Maria Montgomery. She is the lead trainer and behavior consultant at the Maryland SPCA. She's worked at the shelter for over 5 years. So if that's 6, Maria,
it's
I guess
6 now. Time flies, huh?
Right. She teaches a variety of classes: puppy socialization, all-star canine, reactive rover, prep for therapy dogs, canine good citizen, and private consults. Maria has worked with Katie and her humane education team to help train therapy dogs in the Wagging Tails program. Most recently, during the pandemic, Maria has implemented an online training program, including one-on-one coaching, group classes, as well as our newest offerings, which is All-Star Basics. Thank you so much, Maria, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. I mean, it's all about relationships, right? Relationships between you and your dog and living happily together. And that's one of my favorite things when it comes to training, is just teaching people how to really enjoy the animal that they've invited into their home. And now, especially during the pandemic, there's so many people who are dog owners where they weren't before.
That's great. And so it's really important for us to share the information that we can and answer people's questions. But I know that you all have some basic information. I would just love to hear from you about the Maryland SPCA, information that you can share with us about that.
Well, I'll start off. And I will say that, I think for everybody, it's definitely been a challenging year, but I am extremely proud of the Maryland SPCA and how we have pivoted everything that we're doing to still be able to help people and pets in our community. A couple of things right off the bat that I will mention: we are still doing adoptions. We are doing everything virtually right now, which we were all a little like, ooh, is this going to work? And what we've actually seen is it's working quite well. We're actually able to have more in-depth conversations with potential adopters. And our goal is to make a good match in between the animal and the person. What I don't want someone to do is to go online, look at a picture and go, oh, he's cute, I want him. We want to make sure that the right personality is matching with the right family and so on and so forth. And I think we've done a really, really amazing job doing that. We've also created a number of programs to support the different challenges that have been happening during the pandemic. One I will talk about is Kibble Connection. We've always had Kibble Connection. We started it about 9 or 10 years ago to work with Meals on Wheels to support homebound senior citizens. And we had heard that they were feeding their pet their human food. And we wanted to make sure that we were providing the correct nutrition, not only for the person, but for the pet. So we started that about 10 years ago, but then when the pandemic hit, we realized that our entire community was going to have a challenge in feeding their pets as well as themselves if they lost their job. So we expanded Kibble Connection to support our entire community. And if people needed food assistance for their pets, they could contact us and we would provide them with supplemental food to kind of tide them over. In 2020, we were able to help 11,000 animals. And so far this year, we've been able to help 3,000 animals. So it is definitely a program that is worthwhile. We could not do this program without sponsors. We have a number of sponsors that provide us food, which helps us be able to provide it to the community. And I'm going to turn it over to Maria to talk a little bit about what we've been doing on the training and behavior side of things during the pandemic.
Thank you, Katie. And the one word that you said earlier was pivot. And that's exactly what we did. The entire organization pivoted, and how we pivoted really mattered. So from the training perspective, we pivoted to 100% online training, and then we implemented some on-demand video with All Star Basics. I am so happy to say that with people getting vaccinated and with the COVID cases going down, we are slowly starting to open our shelter to in-person training again, which is so nourishing for the owners as well as for us. And so currently, we still are going to offer, I think it's going to step, training online, training on demand. Those are things that we learned and we're going to keep. And we're kind of a hybrid training program, but we are offering in-person training. They're outdoor sessions, which I kind of like because you can spread out a little bit. So it is weather dependent, and we're socially distant while we're doing that.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. So we are starting to get some questions. So we can go ahead and go to that next slide. Awesome. I get to see your lovely faces. Yay. So again, participants, I'm going to ask you just to go ahead and put your questions or comments in the chat. And we have a great comment. One of our participants said, both she and her mom adopted during the quarantine. And when I asked how it was going, she shared, my dog is very friendly with people and eager to meet other dogs. She usually wags her tail and sniffs, but then sometimes lunges and tries to jump. I can't tell if she's so excited to meet the other dogs or she may be a little aggressive. If a dog comes at her, especially with fences, I've seen her bark and growl with her back fur up, but this seems to be different than when she meets dogs one-on-one, gently on a leash. She started to give treats when meeting other dogs to positively reinforce that this is a friend. Mm-hmm. Have anything to share? Or
yeah, my favorite line was the last line. She started giving treats when she saw other dogs. So I've said this a gazillion times, but dogs are master dot connectors. So they learn by association and they learn by consequence. And so that's a really nice association that she's starting to implement with her dog. Another dog appears. If I am right next to you, I'm going to you're going to give me a treat if you were the dog, kind of a thing. So, so making that association and also catching the little shifts in body language right before you notice a growl, a lunge, or a bark. So those tiny shifts really are a few seconds long. Notice that and give your dog space. So your dog could be either frustrated or they could be fearful or a little bit of both. So it just depends. And putting it all into context. So always give yourself space, pay for really nice things that you like, and don't rush the introduction. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of two strange dogs meeting on leash on a busy street. It's one thing if they know each other, but if they don't know each other, I would much rather start at a nice distance and have them have her look at the dog and then check back in with me and then move slow if you wanted to do an introduction. Do you have anything to add on that, Katie?
So Maria, you are much more the expert than I am.
No, you're an expert too.
With this, but the one thing that stood out for me in what she was saying is the behind the fence. And I have a dog, I have 3, but I have a dog that also behaves this way. And what's funny to me is it's like behind a fence. They're like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And then as soon as they come out from behind the fence, they're like, oh, sorry, didn't mean that. Yeah. And that is called barrier frustration. Mm-hmm. Now, barrier frustration can happen in a number of different ways. And it doesn't mean that all barriers are going to create that. Maybe the dog is on a leash and fine. Maybe the dog's behind a fence and not fine. Maybe they're on a leash and behind a fence and not fine. So that is important to remember.
Yes.
And I know that one of my dogs who does have barrier frustration, there's another behavior that he will do called redirection. So in fact, it happened to me this morning. I have some people there doing some work in front of my house, and he sees them and barks like, I don't like you. And then when I go to try to grab him, he's going to sort of turn to the first thing that's right there. And he may not mean to, and he loves me and he's a really great dog, but you want to be careful with that as well to make sure that you're staying safe. And again, I'm not saying that that's what happened. I don't like to say things to scare people. I just like to really provide information so that you can kind of know that. But there is something called barrier frustration that some dogs do have behind certain things or on leashes. So I'll turn that back over to Maria to maybe explain it a little bit more in depth.
No, that's a really good point. And the redirection that you had mentioned, on the human side, it would be equivalent to you being heated up and in an argument, say with your mom or something like that, and someone comes from behind you to pull you back, and you're like, no, leave me alone, kind of a thing. So being mindful of your dog's tension and body language is really important. Calling him away from the fence and paying with some food scattered on the grass will be a much better outcome for both of you, and keeping you both safe. So barriers really matter to dogs, and they notice them a lot more than we notice them. So
That's awesome. That's so good. And we got feedback from our participants saying how much they all just love, love, love their dog, and what an amazing addition to their family the dog is. And so she appreciates your advice, and so do we. Okay, let's go on to the next one. What are your thoughts on dog parks? I've heard good and bad. I'd like to go, but I'm nervous about aggressive dogs and dogs being there that have infectious disease.
that's
So-
a good question. The infectious disease
Yeah,
part. Yeah.
I'll start with that and then turn it
Okay.
over to Maria.
Yeah.
I hate them. I hate everything about dog parks. And it's one of those, before I started in this field, I was the first one that like, oh, sweetie, let's go to the dog park and have fun. And when I started working at the Maryland SPCA, and the more that I got into animal welfare and the more stories I heard and the more things that I learned, I realized it is not a great thing. And it is not that it doesn't have value. It is all of the challenges that come with going to a dog park. And my favorite thing that people say is, oh, my dog's fine. Well, my dog may not be fine. And dogs are very much like people. And everybody on here today knows somebody or has met somebody in their life that they don't particularly like. And animals are the exact same way. And I love it when people try to say, oh, my dog loves everybody. And I'm like, oh, no, they don't. I will find somebody that your animal does not like. And I think that there are so many challenges to going to a dog park when it comes to what's going to be okay and what's not going to be okay. So in my own world, we do not visit dog parks at all, ever, ever, ever. And then on the infectious disease side of things, if your animal is not fully vaccinated, you should not be going to a dog park. For example, if you have a puppy who hasn't had all of their vaccinations, you should not be going to a dog park. But I highly recommend finding other ways to enrich your dog's life. A walk can be equally as fabulous, where they get to sniff and kind of enjoy the different sights of the world. If you have friends or family that have another dog, again, as Maria said, kind of slow introduction and letting those two dogs play. But sometimes we have to think, are dog parks really for my dog, or are they for me? And if they're for you, find another outlet. So that's my opinion, but I'll turn it over to Maria.
No, you nailed it. So a couple of things with dog parks. Just as Katie said, why are you going? So for many people, it's a social check. They're checking the block. My dog goes to dog parks, which implies that he's social, which implies that he's well behaved because he can play with a lot of dogs. So dogs do have an innate need, social dogs, because not all dogs are social. So some dogs have this need to be social with other dogs. And in a way, that's what dog parks fulfill. But you can create your own dog park with known dogs, or go to the dog park when it's empty and you're meeting a known dog friend there. So you are able to unleash your dog and they can play off leash in a safe environment. So in that regard, dog parks are safe if you are picky about your criteria when you go to the dog park. So keep your criteria high and picky, because you want your dog to leave there with really good experiences, with not having arguments. Argument, by the way, is a dog who growls or shows teeth at another dog. They're having an altercation. It's like the 4-letter bombs by dogs. A fight is definitely a lot more dangerous. It's quiet and there's the intent to hurt. So those are the two distinctions between that. But you want your dog to be exposed to other dogs who have good manners, who can really make your dog a better dog. And consider a couple other things. Are both dogs having fun? Are both dogs playing? So if one dog is always doing the chasing and always doing the pinning, the other dog is not playing. So play really means both dogs are having fun. If one dog is doing the bullying, or he's coming in really hard and the other dog is not liking it, and you'll know it, you'll see a tucked tail, you'll see them consistently running away from that dog. That's not play. And that's your dog trying to navigate an environment that he finds unpleasant. So it's not a clean cut answer, but I don't think things should be clean cut. I think you should really meet your dog's needs and figure out where your dog is on that day. Also, if your dog likes going to the dog park and has a certain pile of friends and they play really well together, dogs have bad days just like we do. So there are some days where you shouldn't go. There are some days where you should go there for like 2 or 3 minutes. And there are some days where you really need to monitor who they're interacting with and make that call to leave. So hope that helps.
I think that helps a lot. And I think you make a good point that very often there are shades to all of these situations, and acknowledging that and working through that, I think, is of great value. So thank you. And the person who asked that question, thank you as well. So our next comment, question, situation, we adopted a puppy who had a rough start. At the vet, they brought him back out to me to muzzle him and said he snapped at them. How can I work on his fear of others during this time? He is very trusting and loving at home.
Aww. You
Maria,
want
do
to
you
take that
wanna
one?
take that one?
Yeah. Okay. So, sometimes I think dogs get the raw end of the blame when it comes to going to the vets. And I'm not trying to label vets as mean or, just some vets are just uninformed, and vet techs are uninformed when it comes to canine behavior. They know the medical stuff, but they're not as fluent in the behavior side. So, it's a 2-part answer, so I'll try to be distinct with it. So the first part is, when it comes to your vets, there is a program out there called Fear Free. I think it's Fear Free Training or Fear Free Vets.
Fear Free Vets.
Is it fearfree.com? It's a nonprofit, I think, but if you search Fear Free, there's a whole, you can register, that part's free too, which is nice. And you can register and then look online and see who is a registered fear-free vet. So they have had additional training in how to work with dogs who are stressed in a vet environment. So remember earlier, we talked about dogs learn by associations and consequences. So a negative association is going to the vet and getting poked and prodded. And so the next time they go back to the vet, they make that connection. Oh, this place really stinks. I don't like being here. So there's that, making sure that your vet is a fear-free certified vet. And I know now it's nerve-wracking for me, even you can't go in with your vet. So hopefully that will change in the near future. The other part is counter conditioning your dog. So just practicing with your dog, making that association, going up to the door, walking up to the door and paying them, and then walking away, walking up to the door, paying them, asking the vet to come outside and maybe touch your pet in the public area, and you're pairing that with yummy food. That would be one thing. On the subject of muzzles, though, I think sometimes it's really helpful to condition your dog to wearing a muzzle, because you don't know, especially depending on the kind of dog it is, what their experience is going to be in a vet scenario. So there's a program called the Muzzle Up Project, and they have great videos on training your dog to really enjoy and love the muzzle. A really easy homemade trick you can do at home is, those red Solo cups. If you put the Solo cup on your dog's mouth, it's starting to get the sensation of something covering its snout. And so just practicing that and then feeding, practicing that and then feeding. But I encourage you to visit the Muzzle Up Project for really detailed videos on how to prepare your dog to wear a muzzle. If you think that may happen in the future, it's much, much better that you put the muzzle on as opposed to a vet just hurrying up and putting it on their face.
Yep. I'll add two things
Yeah.
from the non-experienced training side. I like to give it the, hey, this is just average Katie telling you what I've been through. So I also have a dog that does not, actually, he doesn't do well anywhere else but the vet. He loves going to the vet. It's weird. But I do think the reason for that is one of the things that we use at our wellness center that I have discovered, and it is like the magic bullet for me, is spray cheese, old school spray cheese. And it is literally, what we put on the little crackers and you need to spray it. And I'll put it on a tongue depressor, especially if he needs to get a vaccine or he needs to have his nails trimmed. And all of a sudden he's like, here's my ball, give me the spray cheese and I'm all good. So as Maria was talking about associations, I would also maybe look into what can you bring that he would really like during this challenging time. The other thing, and Maria alluded to it, and I agree, the force-free, fear-free shelters, it's a whole movement of what we're all doing. You need to think of your veterinarian as well as a trainer, just like you think of your own doctor. If you go to your doctor and you don't like, or your trainer, and you don't like the methods or how they are treating you or how they're treating your pet, maybe you need to find another one. And I think it's perfectly fine to interview your vets and your trainers to make sure it is a good match. What type of methods are they going to use? Are they used to dealing with animals who may not be as happy when they go to the vet? And I'm a little having my stressful day because my not so friendly dog is getting his dental today. And I was really worried about putting him in a cage and somebody else having to get him out of the cage. So they talked me through what they were going to do and let me know that if they didn't have any problems, they would call me. But never did they talk about putting on a muzzle. And I would be okay if they did, but you have to be okay with what's happening with your animal as well. So if you're not comfortable with what's going on, start interviewing other vets and finding the one that matches what you're looking for and what you feel that your pet needs.
That's a really good point. Just a little sentence to add on to that. So they're in business. I know they care for animals, but the bottom line is money. So if you take your money to a place that meets your needs, I think that sends a big message too. So
that's great. I think that's wonderful. Here's a very interesting question. Well, they're all interesting, but this one is as well. Any specific strategies for deaf dogs meeting other dogs? We sign with him, which he understands in a non-stressful environment, but sometimes he does get aggressive with other dogs. And it's hard to get in front of him to sign, and we don't want to pull too hard on the leash because he's a tripod. Extremely friendly when meeting other people.
That's a big question. So there's a lot going on there. I, just as a rule, I don't move forward with dogs. I'm really conservative when it comes to introducing to unknown dogs. So I only move forward when the dog that I'm handling and the dog at the distant end is showing relaxed, calm body language. If that's not happening, I'm not going to continue moving forward. So that could simply be where this particular person needs to work, whether their dog is deaf or not. So the nice thing about being deaf is the barking from another dog doesn't annoy this dog because they can't hear it. So sometimes we should all be deaf on that side. But I would worry about other body language. So and he may not be, unless he's social off leash, which she didn't share, I would just move a lot more conservatively. So getting closer equals because the dog was relaxed. To get into really a lot more depth on this, I would encourage you to sign up for our Reactive Rover Module 1. It's online. It's a 2-hour webinar, and it really goes into depth on what to look for and what to see with your dog. Because I think this is a bigger question that I can really give it credit for
And
here.
Maria, she did say that the dog is not off leash because it can't hear danger. So no off leash.
Oh, even in a safe fenced in environment, huh? I guess not. So,
Yeah, so we
okay.
could wait to hear from her.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
I just
Here,
think body.
I can unmute myself. No, so we don't have a fenced area, but even
Got
if
it.
we were to put him off leash because he's deaf, like if he doesn't hear you coming, like he,
He
obviously
startles.
gets scared, which you can't
Mhm.
on the ground. So usually he can feel us in the house, walking around.
Yeah, and the house is a comfortable, it's a safe zone. So when it comes to any kind of learning, the very bottom layer of socialization is safety. So the safer your dog feels, the less threatened he'll feel and the more inclined he'll be to learn. So it may just be just baby steps. So not necessarily socializing him with another dog, but teaching him to be relaxed in the presence of another dog. And that may mean, okay, where is my dog relaxed? Is he relaxed when a dog is 20 feet away, 50 feet away? Is it 10 feet away? So that's the threshold. And you've got to work on this side of the threshold, not letting him go deep in the water. Because if he's moving deep into the water of reactivity, then all fine motor skills go out the door and he's not thinking anymore. And I use this analogy where if we are in the car driving to work and we're on I-95 and there's an accident. So we start moving up that threshold ladder, and then I spill coffee in my lap, and I'm late for work. So I'm not thinking, I'm just reacting at that point. And so people talking to me about, their recipes or what happened in their life means absolutely nothing at that point in time because I'm stressed. So that's something to consider about where your dog is when he's listening to you. I know he's deaf, but when he's checking in with you, he's paying attention to you. He's under threshold. When that goes out the window, then okay, you're right at that edge, or you've gone over the edge. I still encourage you to take the webinar because I think you'll learn a lot.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. And she thanks you as well, as that is a complicated question.
Mhm.
So now we're going to move to cats. We have an attendee who has 2 cats. One does not like the other and tends to attack and hiss constantly. Any suggestions to reduce this negative behavior?
I'll start here.
Yeah.
This is a challenging one, simply because I think we need a little bit more information to kind of find out what's going on. The instant thing that I would want to say is we need to separate them and start over
Mhm.
again. And what I mean by that is the cat that's aggressing, I would put in their own room, litter box, everything goes in there. And we keep them separated and start a very, very slow introduction again. And what I mean by that, I'm a huge fan of baby gates in the world. Putting a baby gate in between them, feeding them on either side of the door so that they get, again, really good things when they smell each other. It's also important for the cat that's being aggressed against to have an escape route. So
Mhm.
whether it is something up high where they can get to, whether it's a room that they can go into on their own, that can be really, really important to do. And where you really want to get to, and a lot of people we talk to with these issues are like, I just want my cats to love each other.
Mhm.
That's never going to happen. More than likely, you're never going to have that. What you want is just a peaceful coexistence between the 2 cats. And that may mean, again, feeding them when they see each other, giving them really good treats, but also starting off with separating them all together. And let's reintroduce in a slow way. Also, if you do go online to our resource center, there are several handouts on how to introduce cats, which may give you some more steps than I can give you right now. And then on top of it, most important thing is, again, the cat that's being aggressed against, you need to give that cat an out.
Mhm.
Where can they go? Do you have a split level home where maybe the other cat can go upstairs to get away from that cat, or a very high cat tree where the other cat can't get to? That becomes very, very important. What I worry about in these situations is if you don't fix this problem, it could lead to other things. And what I mean by that is we see a lot of that happen where then the cat starts going to the bathroom outside of the litter box, or having accidents somewhere else, or you're trying to break up a fight and you could get hurt because, you know, the cats are in their zone.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot going on there. I highly recommend checking out our resource center to get some more information on how to reintroduce the cats and separate them from now, start slowly, pay for really good behavior. Maria, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that was really good. On the resources, though, if you go to our YouTube page, we have, and we did a lot of these during the early part of the pandemic. They're lunch and learn videos, like 3 to 5 minute videos. And Erin, our other trainer, who's a real savvy cat expert, put together some videos on reintroducing cats. So really right up your lane. Also, can just make sure you have more than enough litter boxes in your home. So sometimes all of those disputes circle around where the litter boxes are located. And if one can't get to the litter box and the other one's blocking it. So, but our videos are really good.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I have another animal, different animal question. I found a nest of baby rabbits with no mom in sight. What should I do?
I will take this, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Absolutely leave them alone. What
Mhm.
tends to happen specifically with baby bunnies is mom is out watching them, hunting, getting them their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner, and she will come back. There is sort of like that misconception that if you touch the animal, the mom's not going to come back. That's not always true, but leave them there. What we find, especially during this time, we're in spring, procreation is happening with everything. And what we find is a lot of people think that they're doing right by saving that animal, and then they need somewhere to take it. And there is no better thing than a mom. As we all know, moms are the best. We can only do so much with baby animals if we don't have a mother. And the best thing is for that mom to be able to take care of their babies. So yeah, keep an eye on the area. Maybe if you haven't seen the mother come back in 24 hours, then maybe, yes, you want to call a wildlife sanctuary. There's 2 really good ones, Phoenix Wildlife, as well as Frisky's Wildlife, that are really, really great. But I know they're also inundated with people bringing baby animals. Another one I see, I'm going to pivot on the
Mhm.
bunnies, is deer. When people see baby deers, they're like, oh no, I need to save this baby deer. Mom is usually watching them from a distance, and mom will come back. There's just a certain way that they do things. I recently came across a family of foxes. There were 4 baby foxes, cutest things I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh, do I need to save them? Well, I looked kind of around, and there's mom keeping an eye on me, like, get away from my babies. So mom is usually there. Now, let's say that you do know that the mother is not there. Then yes, you do want to gather up all of those animals into a box, maybe put some like a hot water bottle in there to keep them warm, and then get them to a wildlife sanctuary. There are very, very specific needs that each type of animal has, and I will use kittens. One of the things that is the most frustrating thing to me in the entire world when it comes to cats and kittens is the story that every single one of us on this call has read some which way, where it says, I found a cat and I gave it a saucer of milk. That is the worst thing you can do when you find a cat. It will actually give them indigestion. It can give them diarrhea. It can make them vomit. It is the worst thing. And yet we don't give our human babies cow's milk when they are babies. We give them human milk. Same thing with animals. If you find a baby kitten and you do need to feed it, there is something called KMR, which is kitten milk replacement, and it's made specifically for kittens. So it's very important that if you do find that baby and you do want to try to save it, that you really research the right way to go about feeding them and taking care of them. When I first started running our foster program many, many years ago, in my head, I'm like, oh, baby kitten, hold it like a human baby and feed it like a baby. And that is not correct either, simply because you can aspirate the kitten's lungs very easily. If you think about how a mother cat feeds her babies, totally different than how a human mother feeds hers.
Mhm.
So that's would be my recommendation if you're finding any type of baby wildlife. Wait, see if mom comes back, give them at least 24 hours. If they're not back in 24 hours, gather everybody up safely, make sure they have heat, know the right way to go about feeding them, and get them to an expert.
That's great. Thank you so much. Maria, did you have something to share with that or?
No, I'm not a kitten expert. So I think, yeah, we're good.
Well, it looks like we're going back over to Katie because we have another kitten question. I have a 10-month-old kitten. He suckles and kneads on my arm just like he is nursing. Any ideas on how to stop this? Is it harmful to him in the long run? Should I just allow him to keep doing it? I'm afraid there may be consequences to this behavior later on.
So typically what that means is he was taken from mom too soon. That is a nurturing behavior to him. It helps him feel safer and better and relaxes him. The only time that I have personally found that it can be an issue is if you have another cat and they are suckling on each other. I have had some situations where, I had a brother and sister that were suckling on each other, which caused some major issues later. If they're suckling on you and it's not painful to you or anything like that, I don't think it needs to stop. You can try to redirect that behavior maybe onto a stuffed toy or something that maybe has your scent on it. That could also be it too. Your cat thinks of you as mom. And when they are suckling on you, it's helping them to feel safe. It's helping them to feel better, kind of like how human babies suck their thumb or have a pacifier. And we want it to eventually suck, but it's a soothing behavior for them. So unless you are actively seeing an issue with it, I don't think it's something that you have to stop, but you can try to redirect it on something that's not your body parts.
That's great. Thank you so much. So here's a question. I'm wondering if you have opportunity for me to volunteer with the SPCA, and if so, what would that look like and how would I go about doing that?
So it's a two-part answer. We love our volunteers. We need our volunteers. The challenge is we are still in the middle of a pandemic. And even right now, our staff is not all back. The way that we're operating is what we call an A/B team. And we have half of our staff in on certain days, the other half in on the other day. We are hoping that come June, we will be able to slowly start bringing all of our staff back. And then we're going to come up with a plan for our volunteers to also return. We miss our volunteers so, so much. You can right now go to our website and fill out the volunteer application and start the process, because we will ask you to go through orientation. And we do have minimal volunteer roles right now. And I will say that a lot of them are actually with my department. We do need help from volunteers with our cable connection program and getting food together to get out to the community. We've also recently just started a delivery program. We have found that a number of people that are struggling and need food assistance also do not have transportation. So it could be as simple as, yes, I'd like to help deliver some food to people's porches for their pets. We also have our story time, where if you have a pet at home and your pet can relax for about 15 or 20 minutes, we invite, usually have about 12 to 15 kids that come on a Zoom together with 15 volunteers and their pets. And the kids read to the pets. We've had birds, we've had turtles, we've had dogs, we've had snakes, we've had a little bit of every pet. And it is really, really rewarding, and it helps children practice their reading skills with no judgment. So we definitely need volunteers for that. When we open back up and we can have our volunteers actually come back into the shelter, we need volunteers for every role. We have volunteers that help in our exam room. We have volunteers that we call cat cuddlers. And I'm currently in our cat room right now, which is what is behind me. And I always say our cats party all night and sleep all day. So they are in their sleep mode right now. But we need volunteers to cuddle cats and to walk our dogs and to spend time in the nursery with our kittens and puppies. So we very much need them. It's just going to take us a little bit longer to get everybody back in, but you can currently start the process now. And that's just going to our website, which is mdspca.org.
Awesome. That's nice, because we were looking for some specific needs, and it sounds like you really shared those with us, and we're really glad to hear and help, certainly.
And I'll also say one other need I didn't mention, but it is needed. Foster parents.
I was thinking that too.
Yep,
Yeah.
that is the absolute number one need. So if
That's
you
my next question.
Yeah.
Do you have foster opportunities, and how would
We
somebody
do.
go about offering those volunteer services?
So again, they can go online and fill out the foster application. I think we have the most amazing foster program out there. We will provide you with supplies to take care of your foster animals. No, I can't give you the 10-foot cat tree, but I can give you the litter box, the food, everything specifically that you need. You also are given 24-hour support. So if there's an emergency, you have a phone number to call at 3 o'clock in the morning if something's going on that you need help with. You also can pick and choose. We always have a list of foster animals that need fostering, whether you're interested in dogs, cats, kittens, puppies, whatever that might be. My number one statement, and I'm sure that somebody on here is thinking this, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I can give them back. And my response back to you is, when you have a litter of teenage kittens in your home, you can give them back. You really, really can. But it is absolutely the most life-saving volunteer role that we have. Excuse me. If you are able to foster a litter of kittens, because we are entering kitten season right now, which means thousands and thousands of kittens, you are freeing up space in the shelter. You are saving not only those kittens' lives, but also the next 5 that are going to come in that we now have cage space for. And it's really a very, very rewarding experience. I'm not going to say it can't be challenging. It absolutely can. Unfortunately, we can't save every animal, but we so try our hardest. And if you are interested, I would highly recommend filling out that application and then talking to one of our foster coordinators. The other difference in our foster program versus some of the others that are out there, if you are interested in fostering this animal until it has been adopted, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you can also say, you know what? I'm not really interested in helping the animal find the right home. I just want to get him to the point where he can find a home. You can bring him back to the shelter and we'll find him a home. So we really try to be flexible on how that works. And foster parents are sort of always given first dibs. So if you have a friend that has fallen in love with one of your kittens or your dog or whoever it is that you're fostering, they would get first dibs on adopting that animal. Because again, we look at it like the animal doesn't have to come back to the shelter.
That's fantastic. It just sounds like so worthwhile and such a great system to be able to match all those folks up. So that's great. So we're running about 10 minutes from the end of our time. This is really interesting, and I'm really excited to hear about this information. I heard you have a mobile spay neuter bus. Can you tell us about that and how much it costs?
So we don't actually. We did many, many years ago. And as I mentioned, I've been here about 16 years. So when I first started, we did have what we call the neuter scooter. We had to really look at, when the economy wasn't doing so well in 2008, we had to look at where we were going to be able to help the most, whether it was going to be with the neuter scooter or whether it was going to be with our physical building. We did decide at that point it was going to be our physical building, and we sold the neuter scooter. But we do have some other things, which maybe is what this person is talking about. We do have a spay and neuter center. So we do spay and neuter for the public, as well as for our own animals here. We help rescues, we help community cats, you name it, we do it. We also have a program through the Department of Agriculture that if somebody lives in a specific zip code that we work with, they can get free spay neuter. And we really try to focus on that. I think what the person might be referring to, because this is something I started last year, and we've been doing it on and off. We do have what we call our adoptions vehicle. And we are using, as we talked about earlier, that we pivoted when COVID hit. And we have been using that adoption vehicle to either be here on our property or go out into the community and provide free wellness care to certain zip codes, certain areas, and so on and so forth. We have done, trying to think, 9 of these so far, where we send 1 or 2 vets out, a number of techs. I'm usually at all of them, and we schedule people to come and bring their pets, and we do vaccines, and we can handle minor issues. Now, when that pet comes and we notice that the pet is not spayed and neutered, we will then say, hey, are you interested in spay and neuter? And if they are, then we're going to provide them with a card that gives them a phone number to call, and then we will get them scheduled to come to our spay and neuter clinic and have that service done. So we currently are doing spay and neuter, but we do not have a bus that kind of drives around to do spay and neuter, but we did many years ago.
Awesome. It's just good to know the opportunities. It's such an important thing. And I think everybody has an experience of knowing somebody who waited a little too long until they, when they spayed and neutered. So having that opportunity is fantastic.
And you can't ever wait too long. If I had 4 vets sitting around me and I asked them all when you should spay and neuter your pet, you're going to get a different answer from every single one of those veterinarians. Whoever your vet is, I would talk to them. I will tell you that here at the Maryland SPCA, we spay and neuter as of 8 weeks old and 2 pounds. You will have vets that'll say, no, I want to wait until the animal is 6 months. I want to wait until the animal is a year. I want to wait until the female goes through her first teeth. Could be a number of different answers to that question. And even if you have an older animal and you're thinking about doing it, I highly recommend talking to your vet and seeing if you can. Spaying and neutering is one of the most important things that you can do, not only for the things as far as spraying and the cat being your dog being in heat, but also for your pet's health. One of the biggest things we see in male dogs and cats is testicular cancer. And it can be just an absolutely horrific thing. Or if somebody is breeding a female, I have now had 2 dogs that I fostered that had what we call prolapse uterus, which means, and I think we look like we're pretty much all ladies on here. Can you imagine your uterus being inside of you and now it's on the outside?
Mhm.
That is what can happen. And if they are spayed, you don't have that problem. So it's much, much healthier for them to be spayed and neutered. And I recommend, if anybody's not, talk to your vet, get it done.
That's great. Thank you. Just a question or more too, while we have a little bit of time. I adopted an older dog. Do you have training strategies, especially around potty training?
I'll start and then pass to Maria.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been kind of focusing on like the sayings in life I hate. So I'm going to go with another one. The saying that I do not enjoy is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not true. You can
No.
absolutely teach an old dog new tricks. It's all
Yep.
about motivation and finding the right motivation for them. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Maria.
Yeah, no, I totally buy that philosophy too. So a couple things to consider with an older dog that you need to revisit the potty training issue for is substrate preferences. So all that means is the surface on where they eliminate. So as they've gotten older and they've practiced eliminating on surfaces that you don't want, maybe you adopted a dog recently who is an older dog and he came to you appearing to not be potty trained. So those are things to consider. Figure out, is he always peeing on certain types of surfaces? If that's the case, then as best as you can, prevent him or her from being on that surface. And always, even though they're older, go back to those basic little puppy training skills. So you're going to start from scratch, even though they're an older dog. Take them out at least 2 times more than you think they need to go out. The more often they go out, the more they have the ability to rehearse where you want them to go. So right now, the scorecard is that they've got more accidents in places you don't want, and where you do want, they've got less points in that department. So you want to prevent the places where they have been going. So areas of confinement will work for that. Restricting their movement to only where you are, or if you can't supervise them, an X pin or baby gates or crates. The other thing that seems to work really well, especially for older dogs, is if they have an accident in the home, I will tell people to clean up that accident with a paper towel and quietly, I know sometimes it's hard to be quiet when you're frustrated, but quietly take your dog and that paper towel of accident out to where you want them to go and put that paper towel down on that space and just wait for them to smell that smell in that space. And I feel like a broken record, but it's all about making that association. So they're making that association of this smell belongs here. So doing that and then making sure the indoor stuff is cleaned up with an enzymatic cleaner like Nature's Miracle. I love Nature's Miracle and the red bottle, and just douse the areas multiple times with that. So that way the enzyme breaks down the pheromone that says this is a legal bathroom.
I'm going to add one other thing
Yeah.
to this. Before you do any of that, you need to make sure that the dog isn't having a medical problem.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's
particularly
true.
with an older dog.
Yeah.
Let's make sure it's not a UTI or
Mhm.
something more going on before you focus on the behavior. And everything that Maria is saying, you can still do.
Yeah.
But if it's a medical problem, you're going to do all that and still have the problem. So ensure that we're not dealing with something medical before you focus on the behavior side.
No, that should be, yeah, that's like the number one thing. So
like,
that's
well,
why we
I
work.
forgot to say it
That's why we work together so well.
Absolutely, you do work well together. Last question here. And so we'll go through this very quickly and then we're going to get to some resources. My cat looks like it's losing weight. She eats the same, runs around, but it looks like this bottom half of her is skinny and sunk in. What would the vet do to determine what's going on? Right now, she only has 1 litter box and the other cat seems to be okay.
Okay, so if the cat, and I'm gonna guess this might be the cats that weren't getting along. I think is that we're the same person?
Let me go back and reference that and see if that is the same person. It is the same person.
Okay. So
Yes, she said, yes, that is the case.
First thing, we gotta go to the vet. Have the vet take a look at the cat. If they're losing weight, cat's losing weight, it can mean a little bit something more. And I need to be very clear on this. I am not a vet. I cannot tell you exactly what a vet is going to do. My guess is what they're instantly going to do is do some blood work, see what the blood work may say, and then kind of go from there. It could very well be an x-ray where they are looking for a tumor or something like that. I mean, it could be so many different things. They could be having, and okay, so the cat that's losing weight is the aggressive one.
Right,
So that could also be something medically going on that's causing the aggression because the cat doesn't feel well. So you got a few things going on. Cat needs to go to the vet. Let's start with that and kind of figure out what could be going on. And you know, I'm just giving you examples because I'm not a vet and I have no clue. Maybe the cat has a hurt tooth, which it's not eating in the same way, and now it's losing weight. It could be cancer. It could be nothing, but you need to rule that out first of all. And because I am not a vet, I do not want to give you medical advice. I think when you first go, we need to see blood work. We need to see what that is going to say. And then when the cat gets the exam, the vet will then give you what they're going to say is a treatment plan. And I'm kind of going through this with my mom's cat as well. And then what couple of things that you're going to have to decide is how far do you want to go with this? You know, and what are you able to do? And there is absolutely no right or wrong answer in this. It is what you are comfortable with doing to ensure that your pet is healthy. Is losing weight though, something's going on. And I don't know what. It could very well be medical. It could very well be behavioral because the cats aren't getting along. Maybe one's eating more food than the other. It could be a number of things, but it sounds like we have got to visit a vet to kind of start the process and figure out what direction you need to go in.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. And we've come up on the end of our time, so we're going to go ahead and just show there are, as you shared with us before, many, many resources on the Maryland SPCA website, and we would certainly encourage our participants to visit the website, look at the resource library, sign up for online training classes, all those wonderful things. Go ahead and advance that next one if you would. And we have your contact information here as well, which we can certainly put in the chat. Happy to do that. But again, Katie Flory and Maria Montgomery, I want to thank you so very, very much for being with us, for sharing your expertise with us and your love of animals. And obviously all of us that are on the call here today love our animals and animals as well, want to make better lives for them. And you've helped us do that. And I just want to thank you so very much for doing that.
And I just want to add two quick things, and I can't speak for Maria, but I could do this for 10 hours a day.
I know, this is fun.
I love doing this.
This is a lot of fun.
If there are other questions that you guys didn't get answered, please feel free to reach out to Maria and I, and we'll do our best to answer them. We'll answer them together individually, all of that. The only other thing I wanted to mention to you guys, because it's sort of exciting and I should have mentioned it earlier, every year the Maryland SPCA partners with a number of local schools and art teachers, and children within the arts classes create photos or pictures of our adopted animals. And we just concluded our 9th annual art show. And now we've opened a store for the best in show. So if you are a huge animal lover and you love children's art as well, go to our website, go to our social media page and check out our Kindness for Paws store, where you can buy the children's artwork on a number of different items, whether it be a t-shirt or a mask or a note card or anything that you might like. It's a really fun thing to do, and all of the proceeds go back to supporting the animals in our shelter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm putting in the chat for your contact information. I'm going to ask them to reach out to me, and I will get them that information.
Okay, thanks so much for hosting this. This was
Appreciate
really
that.
a nice collaboration.
Yes, and thank you so much for being with us. And again, please join us next time for Wellness First Wednesdays. We're going to be talking about human health next time at the end of the month with the Maryland University of Integrative Health. We're going to talk about acupuncture and yoga and meditation, and it's going to be really fantastic. So again, encourage you to join us. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.